Hello, welcome to the fourth conversation in this series of Profound Experience of Poetry, which is like a bonus feature of the Profound Experience of Poetry book club, featuring people in and around the club. The book club is something we do every second Sunday. We meet online on Zoom and talk about whatever book we've just read. We vote on all the books. And yeah, if you want to join, you can. Everybody is welcome. And it's a really good way to motivate yourself to finish some books if that's something you're having difficulty with. And also, everyone's really nice and fun. So why not? This series of conversations is just something that I am doing because I feel like it. There's not really any real reason for it other than to have in-depth conversations with people that I am interested in. And hopefully you can listen while you do things around your house. My name is Lucy. I'm the editor of Profound Experience, and I started Shabby Dollhouse as well. And I'm a writer. I'm here today with Stacey Teague. And perhaps, Stacey, you can also introduce yourself.
Kia ora, I'm Stacey. I'm a writer and editor from New Zealand. I am studying to be an early childhood teacher, and I live in Wellington.
And so how does it feel being in New Zealand now while your life is kind of normal and everybody else is stuck at home?
I mean, I guess we feel pretty lucky. And I think generally all New Zealanders are like reminded of how nice it is to actually live here. Like it's not without its problems, like everywhere, but yeah, we feel particularly lucky at this moment in time. Yeah, to have like a pretty normal existence compared to everywhere else.
I can hear a plane going over your home.
Yes. Well,
Really,
yeah,
I
the
don't really.
airport's like, I can see it out my window. The airport's just there.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it doesn't go over my house. It just goes, I can see it going.
So now that there's a travel bubble with Australia, do you feel tempted to go there? Do you like?
I mean,
Are
I can't
you?
afford it. I'm a
Right.
student. Like, I'm not even thinking about it. Like, I would love to, but I don't know. Maybe some of my new Australian friends can visit me.
Yeah. 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 It's weird because, well, everything's. I don't know. It must be a strange thing. Like your life is kind of normal, but you can't just leave. But you're also kind of happy to be where you are. So I guess you have a good situation.
Yeah, I feel really lucky for sure. I have a lot of friends who are kind of itching to go overseas. And that sucks because they
Yeah.
can't. And it's just like the not knowing when you will be able to as well.
Yeah. I mean, especially for people who have like, I don't know, like we're so used to like having our lives spread across the world and like having friends or like relationships or family like in different places. And when you can't go to be with those people, it's, yeah, I guess it's just different. Everybody has like a different thing that um is like the struggle for them, right? But anyway, let's not get too far into that because it's a little bit it's not really what we came to talk about. But I wanted to ask about when I first met you, you lived in London and you also lived in Ireland, you've lived in Australia. Like, I know that there's a thing in, is it New Zealand and Australian culture, like about having an overseas experience where a lot of young people move abroad and live there for a while, and then usually, or like often people end up going back, right? Like it's kind of
Yeah.
part of the plan.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I guess it's sort of like inbuilt into our culture because we are so far away. Well, you know, it feels like we're so far away from the rest of the world that we need to like, that we're not like in it. So we have to like go be in it for a bit and then be like, okay, and then come back. And obviously some people like find partners and stuff and stay there. But I guess I came back and yeah, so I lived in the UK and Sydney and Ireland. And I think it was like each time I came back to New Zealand after I, you know, my visa expired or whatever, I'd always be like, okay, where am I going to go next? Like,
mhm.
I was never satisfied with this place. And when I came back in, I think it was like late 2018 when I came back from living in Ireland, I was kind of like, I'm ready to commit to being here. And that's when I went on to do my master's in creative writing. And I moved down to Wellington, which is where I currently live. And I just feel like really just like lucky to be here. And especially like it has to do with like also being Maori and being like connected to this land. It's like it feels really special and important to be here.
Yeah. And is that something that you only kind of like you didn't really feel when you were like growing up or when you were in your like early 20s or something?
Yeah, for sure. I never felt that. I just always took it for granted and was just like, I just want to get out of here. Like I didn't know how great it was. And it took me a long time to come back to it. But now I have, and it's great.
Okay, cool. And but do you think that if you hadn't have gone to all these other places, like I guess you would probably might still feel a little bit dissatisfied or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just good for me as a person. Like I put myself into a lot of situations that were difficult and it kind of made me come out of my shell more because I used to be really shy and now I feel like I don't know, like I've done all that, you know, like you know, if I didn't go overseas, I would have just stayed at home, stayed in my safe, you know, kind of I know everything, but I like moved to the other side of the world, didn't know that many people, didn't know, you know, it kind of makes you just have to be like, okay.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Like it feels uh when you're doing stuff like that, because I've done that too. Like it
Mm,
just feels like, all right, I need to go. Like I've got my bag, I'm going. I don't know anybody. Like it doesn't even feel like that. Like if
yeah,
that's what you want to do, it just feels like, yeah, all right. Like as though you're doing anything else. Like this is an important thing. I need to go now. And
yeah,
when you're not doing that, it's like, wow, that's like that's difficult, right? Like why, especially when I think back on like being like, I don't know, 19, 20 or whatever, and like going to another country and just like living there. And it's like, I don't know anything. I didn't even know how to cook or you know, just like do basic
yeah,
um tasks and then like to do them in a culture where like no and to do it with like no family around, like nobody to help you. It's like very
mm,
bizarre. It's like
mm,
it seems like a funny choice to make, but yeah, also I don't know. It's interesting that that's like part of that. It's kind of a it's like a thing people do when you if you're from New Zealand, because
mm,
I kind of didn't feel like that. I felt like people in England were like, what are you doing? Like, um,
mm,
but I don't know. Why do you think we want to propel ourselves around the world when we're young?
I mean, I was just sort of searching for something, you know, whatever it was. But like I was sure that I wasn't going to find it here, that I had to be out in the world and I don't know, just doing lots of different things.
Did you feel like
And
it? Sorry.
no, you go.
Did you feel like who you were as a person, like needed to like be somewhere else to like become full or something?
Yeah. Like I was maybe 23 when I moved overseas. And I was just a baby. Like I didn't know anything. Like, yeah, because I'm 32 now and I'm like, yeah, I'm good now. Like I'm done. Like, but I feel like my whole 20 was just me just being an idiot and like not being an idiot, but like, you know, just struggling, I think is a better way to put it. Just struggling and just try to be better, be a better person, a person who I liked being, which I feel like I am now.
Yeah. I I guess this was a sort of strange entry point to the conversation. It feels, but then again, we are like having this conversation after having known each other for a long time. So
Yeah.
it's just like what I'm wondering about. But how does that tie in with poetry and like because the whole time I've known you, you've always, even when you were young and you say you didn't know anything, you always knew that that was something that you wanted to do and that you did.
Yeah. I guess I started writing poetry for realsy, for realsies in 2010. Like, I guess I had been writing before that as well, but that's when I started thinking it's a thing that I could do. And then, of course, I found an online community of people. I'm not going to go into that too much, but at the time, I really needed it. And we built each other's confidence and we published each other. We made these, well, I didn't make a journal, but people made journals and we published each other's work and it kind of felt validating. And I'm sure that's what Shabby Dollhouse did for a lot of people a bit later on as well. But forgot what. Oh yeah, I'd always been a writer. Yeah, always been writing. Just terrible poetry. But yeah.
But you would, but what? How did that? What came first? Like, was there a period where you were doing it by yourself, where you didn't know anyone, and then you found the people and you were like, wow? Or was it like, oh, what are these people doing? Maybe I can.
I can't remember. I know that I always had a blog. I always had a blog and I was always writing. Maybe not always poetry, but I honestly can't remember, to be honest. But I think it had to do with, it started off with blogging and then it kind of, I honestly don't. I don't remember how I even found the community of people, which includes people like Jackson Newland, who lives here in Wellington, and Caro. Like that was 2011. We all had our little tiny chats, which was like, I guess, a Zoom kind of thing. And we just would socialize and we'd also share writing.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Like, when all this, when we started like Zooming and stuff, like for a lot of people, it was like, oh, what is this like way of hanging out? But I felt for us, it was like, oh yeah, we've done this before. Like we've spent years talking to people
Yeah.
in tiny boxes.
Yeah.
And in a way, like it felt like, oh, nice, we can go back to doing that. And I don't know, like but there are like
Mm.
some positives to it.
Mm.
Like we
Yeah.
like just for example, you and I, like now we see each other all the time, and we before that we didn't for years, but like
Mm.
we could have done, but people just didn't talk on the computer in the same way for a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like during lockdown last year, we had like people who I used to tiny chat with in 2011, we were Zooming like on a sea and like, just all these people who I haven't heard from in years, we just would all come together again. It was quite bizarre.
yeah, um, but yeah, it's difficult to sustain, which is part of like why it's good doing this book club, because then we like have a reason to, and we have like a set time.
Mm.
Like I think I also like the people who I was like, oh yeah, like let's meet for a drink or whatever, like that's not happening anymore, right? Like you
Mm.
know, it's just like general socializing feels like too depressing. Just do on the computer. It has to be like some kind of point.
Reason,
Yeah. Um,
purpose.
yeah. So yeah, this is something that I was thinking about you, or in my research of your life and times. I realized that like because you were poetry editor for Shabby Dollhouse, but you've also like done you were poetry editor of Scum magazine for like years. You
Mm.
also did a lot of stuff with Subbed in Australia. You're like
Mm.
you've been very involved with like a lot of different projects,
Mm.
but you never like really, well, did you ever start your own?
No, no. Yeah, and I think that's kind of who I am. I don't like to be the boss. I like to be a part of a team and I like to work with people. I couldn't do what you do, for example. Like I really admire it, but I just know that I need I need to work with other people. Um, I just need other people. I can't just be like all on me. I'm like, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I think it's really great because like obviously like that's an essential, I feel like you're playing like an essential role, and
Mm.
also that like I was looking at like some of your, I was just reading stuff of yours online, and in your bio you said like poetry, it says Stacey Teague is a poet and embroiderer, which is something else that we should talk about. But I was thinking
Mm.
like you should change your bio to include editor, because I feel like you've been doing that
Yeah, well,
so long.
my current bio does have editor in it, but there's so many
Okay.
bios. There's so many bios in my life that I have to send. Um, yeah, I feel like I've always been about like making community like wherever I am. I think like it's the most important thing. Well, like obviously writing is the most important thing, but like community is so important in writing because writing is a solitary act. But it's so nice to have a community of writers to be able to talk about the work too, and just to feel a sense of community, especially, online, but in a physical place. Like we did that in Sydney and doing it in Wellington. Obviously, like people have already been doing it before I came to Wellington, but like what Jax and Carol are doing with Food Court Books. And we're actually starting a publishing house. And we're gonna, do like small press, which we're currently is underway. It's in the works,
Wow.
which I'm really excited about too.
So it's like you are working with Jackson and Caro to do some, like, is it called Food Court? Food Court is
It's called,
food.
yeah,
Sorry,
it's kind of,
it's a
it's
bookshop,
under that
right?
umbrella. Food
Yeah.
court is is a bookshop. But they kind of already had this idea for a publishing house and they already published one book back in 2011, but it's called We Are Babies. So it's going to be called We Are Babies, and it's Jackson, Kara, and me, and my friend and our friend Ash. So it's going to be a team of 4, and yeah, we're really excited about publishing like local authors.
And what is your role in the operation?
Editor. I forget what my actual position is, but definitely an editor. I really like editing. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I like editing. I guess I like being behind the scenes of things. I like supporting other people. And I like being able to help other writers, particularly younger writers, because I'm old now. So giving them all my sage, wisdom and whatnot. Yeah. I mean, it's cool being a poet and like doing readings and stuff, but that's like it's not my end game. Like I don't really care that much about that.
You're more interested in like helping other people do it?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I find writing to be really hard, the process of it. And I found this during the period of doing my master's in creative writing. Towards the end, I found that a lot of my self-esteem was wrapped up in my writing. And I think that was really toxic. That was, yeah. And I kind of had a big bad time with that. And it kind of made me reflect on why I write and who's it for. And I still don't really know. All I know is that I do like to write. I like that feeling of knowing that you've put something on the page that is really true to you. And I like sharing it with people and having other people resonate with it and getting something out of it.
In what sense do you mean that like your self-esteem was tied to your writing? Can you explain that more, or is it difficult to articulate?
I suppose it was in the particularly to do with my MA, in that we were marked on our manuscripts, which is insane when you think about it. We were given, a grade. And it's kind of, and basically I got a good grade, but it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And it kind of destroyed me a bit. Like, that's the only word. And I just felt like really like, oh, maybe it's not, I suddenly didn't know what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing, but then I got this feedback and I was like, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. And then I felt really not confident in it, in the work, and not confident in myself. I've recovered from that, but it took me a while. So
what made you want to do the masters? Because you already had a book out, you'd been writing for like a long time. What motivated you to make that decision?
So it's kind of different. It's different in New Zealand than America. There's a million MFAs you can do in America. And here there's about 2 you can do. And they're a lot more chill. So they're only 1 year. And I believe that MFAs are 2, and you have to do like a thesis as well as a creative component. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but
something like that.
but in New Zealand, it's purely creative, and it's basically an opportunity to write for a year. That's what you do for a year, is you just write, and there are other components of it, but the end goal is to have a manuscript,
Right.
a complete body of work, and that's what you're graded on.
Okay. And so do you like meet, do you have classes or do you like meet with people?
Yeah, so we had workshops once a week, and we had like discussion groups, and we had to read a lot. But I really enjoyed the year. Like, it was such a good year. It was just like the end that kind of fucked me up a bit. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. But the question of like, why did I feel like I had to go into it? I kind of had wanted to do it. So I applied in 2015 to do it, and I got accepted. But because I was living in Australia, and I kind of made the decision that I was going to stay, and maybe I could do it at a later date. So it was just like, seemed like the thing to do. And also, so many writers I admire had done the MA. Like, all the New Zealand writers I can think of that I like have done the MA where I did the MA. So it just seemed like a good challenge, a good place to just try and write, because as I said, like, I find writing really difficult. I find it difficult to make space and time to write, especially in amongst all the other things that you do in your life. Like, I work and study at the moment, and it's just really hard to find any time to write. So that I was just like, that's a whole year where the thing that I'm meant to be doing every day is writing. That's not to say that I did that, but just having that space and giving yourself permission is just a really nice feeling that you normally don't have.
So did you come up with a manuscript that I guess you weren't happy with the grade that they gave you, but how did you feel about what you wrote?
I mean, I'm still working on that manuscript, and I understood that it had some issues, and I kind of threw out half of it, and I'm still working on it, and I think it needs more. But yeah, I don't know, like, it's like everything. Some days I look at it and I'm like, this is great, I love this. And some days I look at it and I'm like, this is nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like once you already like have one book, you're not like really in a rush necessarily to have another one, because I feel like there's a lot of like emotion tied up to like, or a lot of ambition or something is like, okay, I need to like have a book so that something, and then once you have one, you realize like nothing happens and it doesn't really matter.
The stakes are so low. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care about publishing anything. Like, but I would like to at some point, but it could be a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
Whenever I feel like I'm happy with it.
Yeah. I guess like if you have the attitude of the stakes are so low, that feels like it's I think that's like a nice way to feel going into being involved in publishing stuff too. Like, obviously, you don't want them to be so low that you don't do a good job for the people you're publishing, but like feels like, I don't know, just the idea of like doing things with friends just because you can, like I feel like that's something we need to do more of.
I feel like it should be said, like, the stakes are low with me like publishing something again, but like I feel like with my relationship to my own poems, like the stakes are through the roof. Like like they're really important to me, and they're important that they're perfect. And that's why I like labor over it so much. And I just think about it so much, and it drives me crazy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, the stakes are confusing. So I guess I want to talk about embroidery a little bit.
Yep.
Because we both have been doing that for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, you inspired me to do it, so.
Oh, wow. I'm an influencer. Yeah, but I mean, someone else inspired me. I think Maggie Green.
Yeah.
So but what do you? I feel like embroidery is. I started doing it like when like there was just a lot of stuff happening in my life, and it was also like I don't know, it was like 2016, so it was like Brexit and Trump and all this like horrible stuff, like where it was kind of like, oh no, the world we live in, it's not what we thought it was. Oh, how surprising, or whatever. And I like felt like I can't write anything. I don't know like how to process words, and so it was like, oh, this is just a thing I can do with my hands, and it takes a really long time. And you can like listen to other stuff, you can like absorb, you can learn while you're doing it.
It's really like mindful.
Yeah. But what do you, but you've sort of, I did it like for a lot for like a year or two, and then I still do it, but like less intensely. But I feel like when we've talked about that before, you've said like I can't not embroider now.
I know. I feel like maybe I said this to you before, but I was like, if I stop embroidering, I'll die. Like, I just need to do it. And obviously, like, the past couple of years, I feel...
Imagine if that was your cause of death.
She stopped embroidering. Yeah, I mean, I do it. I mean, I'm busy and it's time consuming. So, you know, I did it a lot like over the summer holidays, and like obviously during lockdown last year I was doing it. But I still like to have like a piece on the go, and you know, when I get a spare moment I'll do it. What was the question?
There isn't one really. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. I mean, it's just interesting because it's like it's a really, really slow process, like especially if you do like the one piece of thread.
It takes fucking so long.
Yeah, but when you're doing it, like it feels
it's everything.
Like yeah, it's no problem. You're just like, yeah, I've been here for 8 hours and I've like covered this much of a hoop. But do you, I don't know, have you ever done any other like visual art? Like, because I feel like this somehow
I kind of struggle with visual art, and I know like I'd been into photography, but that was, you know, not that much of a thing. And I feel like I'm not that good at drawing. I'm fine at it, but there's a certain element of having to draw an embroidery because you draw on your design. But yeah, I didn't feel like I was that connected with visual arts, and that's why I was really glad that I found embroidery, because that was something visual that I could actually make with my hands. And it was just one of those things that I started doing. Like I did it with my friend. My friend showed me how to do it, but she didn't really show me. Like she just gave me the stuff, and then I just did it. And like she didn't really tell me even how to do it. She just was like, "Here you go. Here's a hoop." And I was like, "Okay." And then I found that it came really naturally to me. And obviously anything that comes natural to you, you want to keep doing it. So I was just like, hey, you know, because I know how to sew, and maybe that helped. I don't know. But I don't know. I found a lot, like I had a lot of enjoyment. I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. And I was talking to you before we were recording about how I'm going to be like putting on a workshop later this year for the literary festival, which combines embroidery. It's like an embroidery and poetry workshop. And we're just sort of like figuring out how these things are going to come together. But when I was talking to the director of the festival about it, I was sort of saying how normally for me, embroidery and writing are on two different tracks. And when I go through like a big embroidery phase where I will not write, I'm not thinking about writing, or I will just be on a writing, like it's not, I can't do both at the same time, but I'm really interested in trying to, you know, like make them come together and see how they do intersect with one another. So that's something that I'll try to like explore in that workshop, which will be interesting, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like with embroidery, it's like, well, like obviously with writing, it's like something that we take seriously and care a lot about. And I don't really feel like with embroidery, it was like, oh, this is easy and people like it for me. And then it's just like, oh, nice, like just keep going. But I don't feel like, oh, like that's who I am, you know, like, or I don't know, that it's somehow like a sacred thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like fun. I recommend anyone should try it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, almost like, I like embroidery is like, you know, it's a way to like express myself. But for a while, I was like doing it to like make extra money. Like,
Yeah.
I was like really into doing pet portraits, and I was just doing loads of pet portraits.
Yeah.
And just like when I was living in Ireland, and I was like, I need any like extra money, and I was just like selling all of these pet portraits. And I still do. So I have like in food court in the bookstore, I have like, because they have lots of art on their walls for sale, and I have like a spot that's just for me for my embroidery hoop. And I just like put my current one up there and see if anyone wants to buy it. And I do have a shop, but I don't really, I don't know. I feel weird about having a shop.
About being a merchant.
Capitalism and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, I also like have done a lot of commissions, and it kind of, after a while, it starts to feel like, I don't want to like do these things that I don't really have any connection to. But I mean, it's great that you can do that, because like obviously with poetry, you can't be like, I'll write a poem. Does anybody want to buy this for $100 or whatever?
Yeah.
But it's
poetry is so like anti-capitalist, I think. And like I did a reading last week, and I got paid $150 for it, and they gave me the money. I was like,
wow.
I wasn't expecting this. Like I was so like, me? For me?
You're like, try and give them an embroidery. Take this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. But basically it just, with that, it like comes down to the fact that people want to have stuff on their walls in their home, and they're like very happy to give you, well, they're not giving you, they're buying a thing that you've made, but it feels like, I don't know. It's weird, that you can do that with this thing that we're kind of like, I'll just do a picture of your dog. And then the thing that is like so important to you, like the stakes are through the roof, as you said, like there's no, I mean, I'm glad that there's no money in that in a way, but it just makes you think like everything is just completely absurd, like none of it means anything. What do you referred earlier to like your end, you said something was not your end goal as a writer or a poet or something, like I'm just wondering like what do you like see your life in poetry, or just your life like being like, Do you think that's going to be central to it, your writing?
I mean, writing has given me so much in my life. And mainly because of the people that it's brought with it. And that's people are really important to me. And I love writers. I love talking about writing with other writers, but I just like hanging out with other writers. Somehow it works out that we normally kind of gel and, you know, have all these things in common. But I will always need writing to express myself. You know, it helps me declutter my brain. I just need to get it out. And it's nice when you can get it out and it isn't totally terrible on the page. You know, sometimes you write down, you're like, this is my diary, blah, 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 blah. I feel like shit, but whatever. Like to be able to like craft something into something that just feels, as I was saying before, just so true to like a certain moment in time. And you're like, yeah, I did that. I feel like a lot of time I'll like read something I wrote and I was like how did I write that? Like, it's like I like just blacked out and the words appeared like, and it always feels like you can't recreate it because you don't know how you ever did any of it. Although like at the moment I'm really into like found poetry, and I find it a really useful tool in writer's block, in that you can just generate text. Like I'll take like an essay and I'll feed it through a text manipulator and I'll randomize. So I'll just have basically this big block of text, and I just have it there and I see all the words and I can just pull the words together and just kind of rearrange them and put them down on the page. And it's infinitely more helpful than just having to pull words from your brain, just like having this kind of catalog of words just to kind of inspire you. So I'm really into that at the moment.
And do you see that as like separate to like when you are just pulling words out of your head, or is it all part of the same thing?
It's part of the same. And I guess I should also talk about like how my work has changed from Takahe, because it's changed a lot. And obviously that was a long time ago, and it was also collected works, for 3 years before that. And it feels really young to me, and it feels like I was a different person in a way. I was a lot more vulnerable and kind of like straight up, maybe. I think maybe I'm more kind of guarded in a way. Like I've learned a lot of things and it's kind of made me more, I don't know, like I don't know. I just think it's different. And that's why I'm not sure how I feel about Takahe anymore, because it's kind of embarrassing to me. And that's why I let it go out of print. And that's why you can't find it.
Really?
I made it available as a PDF on my website and on the Scrambler website. But when Jeremy, the editor of Scrambler, was like, let's do another print run, I was like, nah. I don't want that actually. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's out of print. It's been out of print for a couple of years, but you can buy a PDF of it if you want.
So, I mean, I understand the feeling. I mean, it feels weird if somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I read your book that came out a few years ago," and then if you like know them or something, and then they're like, "Oh, I think that you are this person," and you're like, "No, I'm not anymore," or whatever. But I just think that people expect that you'll have grown, right? Like, I don't know.
Mm.
I mean, I think it's, I guess it doesn't really matter what I think, but I think it's a great collection, and I think that it is important to like record the experiences of like a young woman or young, like I think of us as especially then as like being girls really, but like I think that there isn't like much of a history of that being a thing, right? So I don't know if
you're almost, you're like, I'm very suggestible. Why don't you get Jeremy on the phone right now? Like, print more copies. Lucy says you should.
Yeah, I was just like thinking like I'm gonna talk to him, but I don't even know him. And also
seems like a nice guy.
And also I don't think that it would be up to me to make that choice. But no, but I mean I understand. Like of course I understand how you feel, because I think the same stuff about things that I wrote. But then I find that also that a lot of the time, like I don't know if you do this, but like I'll think of like specific lines that I wrote where I'm like, oh God, like why did I say that? Like why did I think that or whatever? And often like maybe the line that like stays in your head that you feel a little bit like weird about is probably like you were doing it because you were like or I feel like I have written things where I'm like, oh, I was kind of influenced by like what other people were doing at the time, or I felt like I should be more like this or whatever, and that wasn't really me, but I let that slip in, and then that can like haunt me, like, and I feel bad about whatever the thing is that I like think I wrote. But then when I look, if I like force myself to look back at whatever the story was or whatever, and you see it in the context of the thing that you wrote, it's like, oh, it's fine. And amongst all the other words, it's like, no, it's no big deal. It just, it makes sense. So I feel like, I mean, sometimes we can build things up in our heads where we like think that they're really embarrassing, but it's fine when you, I don't know. And you, and also I find that I can like think like, oh, I was so different. I was whatever, I didn't know this, but often it's like, no, not that different actually. Like you're still the same person, even though you know.
Yeah, you're right. I'm wrong. You're right.
I don't think so, but I don't know. But what do you were saying that like your writing has changed? Like how?
I think it's just become more mature, basically. And I really just am trying to write around the thing rather than writing the thing. I think that's more interesting to me, to not say the thing. So this is something that we talked about a lot in the MA, is like not saying the thing. Like being able to know the thing, but not saying the thing.
But how does that?
My flatmate just walked in and then was like, and then walked
out. Do you like that as a reader too?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's maybe people who don't read poetry don't like that as much. They like it when you say the thing. But I find it more interesting when you don't say the thing and you have to figure out what the thing is by all the other things that they say.
I felt like I mean that was very much the case in the Cipher, the book that we just read by Molly Brodak,
which I love.
Yeah.
It just, you just get so much more out of it, because it may be baffling at some stages, but the more you read it, and the more you read it again and again, I find that with collections like the Cipher, like I just want to read it over and over again. more flatmates coming in. I'm in the lounge, so it's not their fault. I don't know. It's just more interesting to me.
Yeah. So I guess going forward, do you feel that, because Takahe was like a collection of, well, I don't know if it probably wasn't all the poems you wrote for a period of time, but it was more like this. I mean, a lot of first books are like that, right? Like, here's who I am, like, but now do you feel like, are you more likely to like take on like an idea or something, like some kind of
yeah, I want it to be like a really contained collection about, you know, very specific things. But I don't know, like it's just so hard to, it's hard to think about what the collection actually is. Maybe it will become clear to me at some stage, and I hope people can read it at some point also.
Do you want to be like on a sort of big established press, or do you like the idea of being on something small with friends or people you know?
I don't know. Like in New Zealand, there's not a lot of places you can publish. Like obviously I could publish, not obviously, but you know, I could publish overseas.
Yeah.
But I would really like to be published by somewhere in New Zealand. And there's two like university presses that are the main ones who will do that. And there's a few small presses that you could do it, but I'm not really sure at this stage. Like I maybe would try for a bigger one. And if I couldn't, then a smaller one would be fine. Like I'm not fussed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, basically, you're not really concerned with publishing a book anytime soon, are you?
No, like it's nice. Like I'm not gonna act like it's not nice to have a book of poems published that you wrote. Like it's an amazing feeling. And it will happen at some point, I'm sure. I feel like we've been going for 3 hours.
All right. Well, do you want to read something
I would love to
close us out? You're supposed
yes.
we're supposed to tactfully say like, maybe one of us should read.
Well, I didn't do that. I just am like very warm. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm okay. So I have like this series of spells that I started writing in my MA, and I just have so many spells now. So and they're all quite short. So I thought I would read some of my spells. This first spell is called Spell for Nowhere, and it is about when I went to a music festival earlier this year, and here it is. Spell for Nowhere. World of sisters, the magic we can produce with our hands. Important water we bathed ourselves in. Dipped whole, deep materials. Out there, I shed what I couldn't love, while eels kissed my legs like lovers. From the shore, other narratives moved like smoke in the light. No silver skies, the music against me. There is my algae heart blooming on the surface. You chose river, we chose ocean. I held up my phone to catch an image, rejoicing. He wairua, made putangi out of clay from the ground, dried in the sun by the river's edge. Spent our days learning how to place our mouths. We knew feelings, deified voices, lesser shame, full stomachs. I lived here. That's one of my spells. So in that poem, I talk about making putangi tangi out of clay, which is like a traditional Māori instrument that my friend who makes music out of traditional Māori instruments just helped us make them out of clay from the ground. And I have mine, and it plays like you can actually play it, and it's maybe the best thing that I own. It's just like really special. What do we got here? I'm just scrolling now. Very profesh. Here's a little one called Spell to See the Future. Your eyes dart around the room in their little sockets of bone. Sometimes it's like you're asleep when you're awake. Spell to repair broken things. Absent-mindedly finger the hole in the gusset of your stockings, the same way that you notice yourself tenderly cupping your own breast. It's out of love for yourself. Spell to erase and replace. Press a shell to your chest so that it can hear the ocean inside. Listen to music that makes you grow lighter. Speak across rooms, sleepless in your baby doll dress. Move the color wheel in your head. Make new names for everything you see. Me is tree, he is plume, you is wave. Spell to carve out space. Move your body as a wave in the tsunami safe zone. That is one way to be seen. You know there's a world beneath this one. You've been harboring too many fantasies you know can become real. Give up early in the day to go about your window watching. On the screen, the two women hold each other. Pay close attention to where they place their hands. Think about things that are not on fire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just clapping for me.
Yeah. Thank you for reading. And
thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad to have read your younger works that you're embarrassed of, and to now also hear your mature works. And I guess you're just going to continue you think you'll get more and more mature?
I mean, I'll probably like go just like get more immature at some point, I'm sure.
Maybe. Let's meet again in 10 years and find out.
Yeah, reunion.
All right, see you then.
Bye. Thank you.